مساء الخير أحبائي، معكم منى من كرج. بمناسبة الأعياد رح نقدم لكم فيديو عبكرة الصبح وفيديو تاني عشية تستفيدوا من أفكار كريسماس. إن شاء الله تنبسطوا معنا. معكم منى. رح نعملكم appetisers كرمال الكريسماس. إن شاء الله تنبسطوا ويساعدوكم ويفيدوكم.
Tortilla roll-ups, and these have a holiday vibe. So just dice up some red bell pepper, green bell pepper, and dice it pretty small. And then just slice a few green onions. Now, this is a cream cheese mixture, and I've got 2 blocks of softened cream cheese, and I add a packet of ranch dressing, salt and pepper, and then this is time for the old smush maneuver. Just kind of smush it and smear it and get it all combined so that it's totally mixed. And then put a little pile onto a large flour tortilla. This is burrito size, and you can use really nice tortillas, which would make a difference. These are just from the supermarket. Smear the cream cheese out to the edge and sprinkle on the bell pepper and green onion, just so it's totally covering the cream cheese. Then grab a piece of plastic wrap and have it ready. And it's time to roll. Hence the name, roll up. And when you get to the end, it should stick closed, but put it on the plastic wrap and roll it pretty tight. Tuck in the ends and then get to work on the rest of the tortillas and cream cheese mixture and veggies. Then when you have them all rolled up in the plastic wrap, they need to go into the fridge. And this is so great to make the day before. So those will stay parked in there. Next up, cranberry brie bites. These are really easy to make. I put a wheel of brie in the freezer and then cut it into squares. The freezer just makes it easier to cut. Separate the squares so they won't stick together, and then grab a piece of thawed puff pastry. I thawed this in the fridge overnight. Love this ingredient. Then just kind of roll it out a little bit, just to kind of flatten it and make it a little larger. And then it's time to cut the sheet of puff pastry into 24 squares. So however you want to do that, I'm being a little careful with the knife, but you can use a pizza cutter and just kind of go zip, zip, zip and cut them that way if you like. Next, spray a mini muffin pan with nonstick spray and lay a piece of puff pastry into each well and just kind of lightly press them in. And once you have the puff pastry in the pan, fill each one with one of the little squares of brie. If you want to, you can take the rind off of the brie, but I never mess with that. So next, crack open a can of cranberry sauce and put a little spoonful on top of each piece of brie. You can also use a chutney or jam, anything you like. And then a sprinkle of chopped pistachios right on top. You could also do cashews, that's really yummy too. So these bake in a preheated 400-degree oven. It takes about 15 to 18 minutes. And the great thing is you can make these a couple of hours at least ahead of time and just let them sit. Sprinkle them with sea salt, and then they can just cool in the pan for later. All right, appetizer number 3, we gotta have something sweet. And this is a 3-ingredient fudge. You will not believe how easy this is. So in a double boiler, mix semi-sweet chocolate chips with a can of sweetened condensed milk, which is a miracle ingredient. And then while it's melting, crush up some candy canes or peppermints and crush it up pretty fine because you're going to sprinkle the top of the fudge. Put the peppermint into a ramekin so it's ready to go. And then we can take a look and see how the double boiler's coming along. Oh yeah, it's starting to melt. This really only takes about 10 minutes and you just want to stir it slowly. You'll watch it kind of go from lumpy to pretty smooth. And in the end, it'll look sort of like a marshmallow mixture. and it's totally fine to see some of the lumps from the chocolate chips. So you want to hang 2 pieces of foil in opposite directions over the sides of a square cake pan. I'll show you why we do that later. Then just get all of that fudge into the pan, smear it around. It doesn't have to be smooth on top. And then sprinkle the peppermint all over the surface while it's still kind of soft. And then that can just kind of sit at room temperature while it sets. And you can get to work on the tortellini skewers.
Tortellini.
Just use some spinach tortellini, so it's green. Let it cook according to package instructions, and then drain it. And what I like to do is dump the cooked tortellini onto a plate so it doesn't stick together and it cools, just kind of spread it out. And then make a dressing for the skewers. And this is just olive oil with prepared pesto, a little red wine vinegar, salt and pepper, very simple. And you just kind of want it to be drizzleable, if that's a word. So then you can get to work on building the skewers, and they're just so simple. A cherry tomato with a couple of pieces of mozzarella and one of the spinach tortellini. And it's as simple as that. You can build a big platter of a whole bunch of them, just kind of lay them on each other, and then drizzle on this flavorful pesto dressing. You can also save the dressing for the very end when the guests come, or you can just let it sit and kind of marinate, sprinkle on some parsley, and that's
شو بكون عم تستفيدوا أحبائي؟
or let it sit at room temperature. And with that, we are on to number 5, which is probably my favorite.
The
I
mushroom.
can't have a holiday party without stuffed mushrooms. So pop the stems off of the caps and chop up the stems pretty fine. And those are going to be part of the filling for the stuffed mushrooms. So in a skillet, you want to brown some sausage. This is just good old Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage, but you can use Italian sausage or anything you like. This is actually spicy sausage, so it has a little bit of a kick. When it's totally brown and crumbled, just put it on a plate, and then in the same skillet, add some onion and garlic, cook it until it's soft, and then pour in the wine, which gives the stuffed mushrooms incredible flavor. Scrape the bottom of the pan and get up all that flavor, and then let the wine reduce by about half before you add the chopped mushroom stems. And you just cook the mushroom stems in the wine, add salt and pepper, and when the liquid is almost totally absorbed, then you want to kind of let this cool a bit. It's going to become part of the filling. So pretend I let this cool. I tried to kind of cool it quickly. The stuffed mushrooms have a little cream cheese as well, so put the cooled mushroom stems in with a block of cream cheese, add the sausage, and just an egg yolk. Sorry, this is kind of weird, it's sticking to the bowl. And some Parmesan. Oh, salt and pepper too. Smush it together, and this takes a minute, but you want it to turn into just this wonderful mixture with cream cheese and mushrooms and sausage. And now it's time to quote unquote stuff the mushrooms. I really don't stuff them. I actually use a kitchen scoop and just put little piles on top of each mushroom. Before I bake them, I like to pop them in the freezer for about 15 or 20 minutes. It just helps them keep their shape while they bake. When you're ready to cook the mushrooms, just put them on a rack over a baking sheet, and this just helps the mushroom juice drip away. And they go in at 375 for about 25 minutes. Now for the fudge, you can see that you just lift it out of the pan with those extra sections of foil, and it comes right off. And I like to cut it into small squares. It cuts really easily, and you can actually put this in the fridge to hasten the setting process. But I like to do it at room temperature because look at how creamy and luscious that fudge is. 3 ingredients. Can you believe how easy that is? And it's so pretty. Now, when it's party time, just pull those tortillas out of the fridge and slice them. So look at how pretty. I like to slice them about probably 3/4 of an inch thick to 1 inch. Put them on a pretty platter and just cram them on there. I I love these. They're seriously like circa 1991. My friend Hyacinth used to make them. They're so perfect. And now those mushrooms are ready. The great thing about these mushrooms is they're really delicious, warm, or even at room temperature, so you don't have to bake them exactly when the guests are going to arrive. But man, honestly, these are like circa 1984. They stand the test of time. Sprinkle on some parsley, and honestly, there is nothing better than this. I love these. So now come the cranberry brie bites. Now these are rustic. They're not all exactly the same shape, but that's what I love about them. Just put them on platters. So flavorful. I love
لحظات
that brie and those
بتكون
pistachios.
سفرتكم جاهزة.
So now let's lay out the spread. Oh, we've got those beautiful Christmassy skewers. The colors
بون
are so
أبيتي.
gorgeous. The
ألف صحة
tortilla roll-ups,
أحبائي.
the peppermint fudge, beautiful stuffed
سفرة كتير
mushrooms.
حلوة.
What a spread.
أفكار حلوة. أحبائي. هذا كل شي لليوم. رح نختمها بأحلى ترتيلة. جي الليل يسوع. افتحوا بيوتكم. ضووا شموع. كرمال يوصل يسوع ويبارك بيوتكم ويبارك عيالكم. نتلاقى بكرة إن الله راد. كانت معكم مولا من قناتي. تصبحوا على خير. يا ليل ساكت ليش ما وصل بعد الخبر ناطر إلك قديش أول بكتير السهر. يا ليل ساكت ليش ما وصل بعد الخبر ناطر إلك قديش أول بكتير السهر. والناس سهرانين ببيوت مدفيانين.